it's Amanda and this is my Texas Zone 8 garden, and today we're going to be lifting a bunch of my fall planted ranunculus. I'm going to show you how I store them for next season, and we're going to be planting quite a few zinnia and marigold seedlings. Okay, so I got past my garden tour and it went wonderful. I met lots of lovely people, which was really great. It was a really, really nice time. Had a great time chatting with each of y'all. I think everybody enjoyed the garden. I had to block off some areas just because the drainage issue is still such a problem until I get that fixed. But I am excited that now the garden tour is over, I can do a lot of changes in the garden. Typically, I don't leave so many blooms on my plants. I want to harvest the blooms more often so that the plants will continue to produce more flowers. But because of the garden tour, I left a lot of blooms up so everybody could see them. So now I'm at the point where I can start adjusting for that. But today I want to go ahead and start with lifting all my fall planted ranunculus. So let's start with that. Okay. In this garden bed right here, I have my fall planted ranunculus. So that is ranunculus that I sprouted at the, I guess, maybe end of summer, beginning of fall, and then planted it out into this bed and overwintered it. And I had excellent results. And I was debating whether or not I wanted to leave them in here or whether I wanted to pull them. And in the end, I decided I'm going to go ahead and pull them for a couple of different reasons. I just feel better about it. And I feel better about, I already know that I can save them and restart them. And I think it'll also be a money saver because if I lose a bunch of these, then I have to rebuy. And I really don't want to have to rebuy ranunculus if I don't have to, because they are a pretty pricey corm. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I waited until my ranunculus was mostly dead. There's a little bit of green foliage in some places, but mostly done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with my hoary knife and gently lift out the corms just like that. I'm not going to shake a bunch of the dirt off right this moment, but I'm just going to look around. Oh my gosh, so many worms already in there. But I'm just going to start very gently lifting them out. And I just press straight down with the hoary knife, and then I kind of like use it to leverage it. And I'm just going to leave the soil on here for right now, and I'll allow the soil to dry over time and then separate out the corms. I'm not cutting off the foliage right this moment because I find that leaving the foliage on makes it easier to lift these. Because I can grab onto the foliage. And then I'm just storing them in a container behind me. I'm knocking off a little bit of the soil. Oh my gosh, there's so many worms in here, y'all. Now, I had already planted some sunflower seeds in here, so I'm kind of gently working around that. I wanted to get a jump start on those so we could get some nice production. And a lot of these ranunculus will have doubled and tripled in size. But leaving the stems on really allows me to more easily locate the corms. So I really felt like the fall planted ranunculus allowed me to have blooms earlier than if I started them in January and planted them out in late winter, early spring. And the reason that really helped out is because ranunculus do not like warm weather to bloom in. They're really more focused on cool weather, which is fine, which is great. But we get so hot so quickly here that if I wait too long, it gets too hot and the ranunculus don't produce very many blooms. So by doing it, starting it in the fall, It's really helped me to get blooms earlier, which I think is great. All right, and I've also got a bunch of celosia seedlings that I'm kind of pulling up right here because I don't want them battling my sunflower Steve sunflowers. Y'all, there are so many worms. Having to knock the worms off of the corms. So many worms. Makes me feel good about my soil though. Okay, and while I'm here, there is a lot less germination on the sunflower seeds than I thought. So, I mean, I've got some here that are doing well. This right here is actually an eggplant, but I've got several, but I've got kind of a space in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just start some additional seeds. These are Pro Cut Gold Light seeds, and Pro Cuts are going to be single stem sunflowers, and they're just, you know, one and done cut. They're not branching sunflowers. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in some additional seeds in here and go ahead and succession sow these. So these will be a little bit behind, but it'll still be really nice to have and not too long midsummer, which will be really great. And succession sowing of sunflowers and zinnias and marigolds is really important for me during the season, just because if I only plant once, they'll just die out and we'll be done. We won't have a whole bunch coming up, and I want to have flowers throughout the whole summer if possible. And sunflowers and zinnias and marigolds are my go-to flowers during the summer times. So these Gold Light, Pro Cut Gold Light, are beautiful. Some of my favorite to grow. And I'm just tucking them in about an inch deep. And they do need to stay moist while they're going through their germination process, which is a really good time of year for that because we still have a lot of rain in the forecast. So this should work pretty good. All right, that sounds good. Okay, and here's all my corn. So I just need to let the soil dry a little bit, but we'll go ahead and just leave these out in the sun while we're out here working. And then at the end of the video, we'll go in and I'll show you how to divide these up and prep them for storing until the end of the summer. Okay, I'm over here by the snapdragons because we're going to be working in this bed today. And basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be harvesting snapdragons. I have not harvested in a while because I was trying to keep them fresh for the garden tour. But the more you harvest snapdragons, the more blooms they're going to produce. And we are getting to the hotter points of the spring. I mean, we're truthfully, we've already hit the 90s a couple of times. But so snapdragons usually slow down for me in the summer, in the hotter weather. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to harvest, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to go ahead and tuck in some zinnia seedlings to these. And what that'll do is those seedlings will continue to grow on, and once these snapdragons are finished blooming, I will be able to, at that point, begin harvesting zinnias. Also, the zinnias will shade my snapdragons to hopefully help them survive the hottest times of the year. And it is supposed to be a brutal summer that we have coming up, and help them survive the hot weather so that they can overwinter and give me blooms next year. Because snapdragons do reseed themselves, but they also kind of act as a perennial for me in my particular area. So when I'm cutting in here, I'm just coming in, cutting as far down to the base as I can. I'm cutting off any old blooms that are already spent, and I'm cutting off any that I want to harvest and take inside. Now, typically, you wouldn't wait so long to harvest these. You would have harvested once 2 or 3 blooms were open. But like I said, I was really leaving these as long as possible for the garden tour so that the people touring the garden could enjoy some color. Truthfully, good cut flower gardeners don't have a lot of color in their garden because they're always harvesting. So you would only be leaving the blooms if you're going to be, leaving them to enjoy in the garden. And if you love the look of the snapdragons and you would like to start some, I will have a series coming up in the summer where I will be starting a bunch of snapdragons from seed to plant in my garden in the fall and over winter so that they are ready to produce flowers come spring. And you are more than welcome to follow along. I also have existing videos if you'd like to go ahead and watch now. Okay. These are definitely like not as strong as stems. You can definitely tell that these are second and third crop, but still very pretty. All right, I'm gonna get these in the water and then we'll get planting some zinnias. Okay, so we had rain last night, so there's some standing water in these containers. These right here are all zinnias that are going to Kristen's house, and I had potted them up and they're doing beautifully. The same with these marigolds. However, back here, these guys are still in their little seed cells, and these are mine, and they need to get into the ground. So let me go ahead and pull these out real quick. Those, and okay, so they're all looking pretty good. Let's talk about where we're going to put these. Okay, so these are the snapdragons that we just thinned out and harvested. And basically, these are going to begin to go dormant for this summer. And so I want to go ahead and start tucking in zinnias in their space. Now, these zinnias I grew from seed, and they are all very tall. And they need to go ahead and be pinched back a little bit. So I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is just cut above a set of 2 leaves. And it's going to look pretty harsh, but these will be better for them in the end. And I'm just going to go ahead and trim them. And this will help them with branching and to produce more blooms over time. Because some of them are actually starting to bloom already, which is a little, I mean, it's not bad. It's just, I have time, so I don't have to rush them or anything. What I am going to do is, even though I did treat this soil with some fertilizer and some compost, I am going to perhaps put a little bit of fertilizer in each thing or each hole before I pull my zinnia seedling and get it planted, just like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and tuck these in. Okay, and then we're going to move over to this bed right here. So you have a few bachelor's buttons that are coming across. I'm going to pull those up. All right, and we will go ahead and fertilize this entire little area. And once those bachelor buttons finish up in there, we'll pull those and I'll plant another round of either zinnias or sunflowers. These are all spaced about 6 to 8 inches apart. If you want bigger plants, you can space them further apart. All right. Okay, and then I have just a little bit of space over here where I'm going to tuck a little bit more. There we go. Okay, over in this bed, I overwintered delphinium that I grew from seed. And I have a few volunteer sunflowers coming up. And then right here is where I had all of the, sweet peas. Now the delphinium, and this right here is a eggplant. Now the delphinium, I already harvested and cut back, and then it's coming back. I've never been able to overwinter it, so I know it's hanging on right now. I'm just going to plant around it and leave it because if this year, if it does come back, great. It usually dies out real bad during the summer, so it's not usually something I get a lot that I get any kind of additional benefit for. But I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and start back in this area, and I'm going to go ahead and fertilize with my plant tone. And back in this area, I'm going to go ahead and work in some of my, some of my cocoa marigolds that I'm growing this year. I'm really excited about growing them this year. And I've got 3 varieties of cocoa marigolds. The first one being cocoa gold. Now, marigold seedlings, these roots are coming up really high, so these can actually be planted a little bit deeper than you would think because they do grow roots off of their stems. So if you end up with leggy marigold seedlings, that is something that you can do very easily. Let's go ahead and plant them much deeper. Let me go ahead and bring y'all in closer to see that. So you have all the roots coming off the seedling, so I can bury the seedling a little bit deeper and it will produce new roots off of the stem. Okay, and then I do need to make sure that I water. I'm going to water the seeds in, and then of course I'm going to water in all the new seedlings. Okay, and then real quick, it looks like a bunch of my scabiosa plant over here is falling down. So I'm going to put in a couple of stakes and tie it up so that it's not basically suffocating everything underneath it. And so that my stems will grow more upright. He's status overwintered for me. Humid, y'all. Check out that. I believe this variety is called Forever Silver. It's more of a pale, pale, pale lavender color. super pretty. So these, I typically start these seeds in the fall, in the summer, plant them out in the fall, overwinter them, and they get spring blooms. However, these have lasted an entire year all the way through around, and they wintered for the second time. So I have a ton of blooms from this year. I would love for them to keep continuing to do that. It would be great. These are awesome dried as well. Okay, so we're back inside. I've got all my Ranunculus Corms. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to use my fingers to really like loosen up some of the soil. I think I'm going to have to end up dumping most of this soil out. Let me get you guys closer in so you can see better. I'm thinking about to dump most of the soil out because there's like worms everywhere. So what I'm going to do is I've still got this long, and when you see, you can see that there's 2 places where it's sprouted. So that's 2 corms in there. So I can hold the stems and gently separate the 2 corms there. And that makes it a little bit easier, which is why I leave the stems on longer. And then once I've got them separated, I'll go ahead and cut them off. And then from there, I'm going to go through all of them, separating them out, and then we will lay them out to dry before storage. So let's do another one. This one has a lot in it. So basically just going to come across, kind of gently, see if I can pry some of these apart. Like there's a small one. There's one right there, and just dusting off the soil to the side. These are really jam-packed in there. This is definitely multiple in here. Let me see if I can, I don't think I can get those apart, but maybe once they dry a little bit. That's like 4 or 5 kind of grown together. Here we go. Now there's one. Okay, I'm going to leave that instead of breaking it. Let's do one more and then I'll speed it up. All right, so see, because I've left the stems, makes it way easier to pull these apart into separate corms. And I had 4, so I originally started as 1 corm, turned into 4, which is great. This one even looks like more. I leave it there. Okay, so I obviously took a shower after I was outside. Okay, and changed clothes because I got to go to a band booster meeting. Yay! Okay, so I've got them all divided up here in the tray. Now, there's still worms and critters in here. I could go ahead and soak these and try to get all that out. I just don't do that. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave them in this container for probably a couple of weeks. Really allow them to dry out really, really well. Then once they're done, I typically put them in some kind of basket, like this kind of basket with just a piece of cloth, like napkin or burlap or something like that. So it breathes really, really well. And then I put them in a dark place. And that worked really well for me last year. And I will say, I really think these have gotten a lot bigger, more plump. I mean, they're way bigger than they were last year. So that's all I'm going to do for storing these for now, is just leave them in this tray for several weeks out in the open, under the fan, just allowing them to do their thing. I'll keep checking them for worms and trying to work the worms out. I can't believe how many worms there were in that soil. It was amazing, which is very, very exciting, very cool that that soil is just getting to be absolutely wonderful. And then I'll put them away in the basket with the cloth napkins, and then I'll be pulling these back out probably September, probably end of September. I'll pull them back out, I'll sprout them, I'll plant them outside, and they'll grow for the rest of the fall into the winter. And once we get close to dropping down to freezing temps, I will cover them and keep them from going to below freezing, and then overwinter them outside. This just allowed me to get such a huge jump on growth for these, and I had such a great harvest of ranunculus very early on in the spring, which was great. In the past, I haven't started sprouting them until like January. Truthfully, by the time they're ready to give me buds, it's May and it's too hot already in my area. So this process works way better for me, and I'm going to be continuing to do that. If it's something you're interested in, just be sure to keep an eye on my videos, and I will show you when I start these and how I plant them out in the fall and how I'm overwintering them. It was a very simple, easy process, and I definitely think it's worth doing it again. All right, you all, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, seeing me lift the ranunculus and getting them ready for storage, and go ahead and planting. We ended up planting some sunflower seeds, but we also planted some zinnia seedlings and some marigold seedlings. Very excited to get all that started and getting to fruition so I can begin harvesting those this summer. All right, as always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Every time you like and comment, it helps grow my channel so much. Let me know what summer blooms you are going to be working on. Typically, I stick to the sunflowers, the zinnias, and the marigolds. They work really great for me. And be sure to check me out on my social media outlets, including Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, she's a mad gardener or decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.